Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Risto and thanks for joining me for another Metrics Monday. Today we're here to talk to you about mean time to remediate, MTTR. Now, reason we want to measure this is to help really show the performance of the program and might even be a compliancy requirement for us. If nothing else, it's going to help show whether or not we're tracking properly to our SLAs that we have for remediation timeframes. Now we'll talk a little bit how we can break this down coming up, but let's first take a look at how we can actually calculate this. Here you can see the formula that we use for MTTR, the mean time to remediate. On the top, what we have is the time it takes to remediate each of the vulnerabilities, and what we do is divide that by the total number of vulnerabilities. Now for the numerator, what we need to do is take the sum of all the time to remediate. So if you have 2 vulnerabilities, you have to add that together. If it's 3 or 4 or 17, we need to add the total time to remediate all of those vulnerabilities, and then it is being divided by the number of vulnerabilities that are being calculated. Let's see some examples. Now here you can see my spreadsheet. What I've got is 10 vulnerabilities that I've just created up here for us. I've got severities listed off for us. I have the vulnerability release date. I've got date detected and date remediated. And then in the last column, what you can see is the number of days for the MTTR, that calculation. And so what we can see here is this first one. What we do is we take the date it was remediated. We take away the date that it was detected. That'll leave us 2 from January 12th to January 10th. And you do the same thing down all of the different vulnerabilities. So you can see here the mean time to remediate for a single vulnerability is calculated just by taking the date it was remediated, subtracted the date it was detected. Now for all the vulnerabilities in questions, all we did is we just added up these totals here, which gives us the sum of 117. Now with that as well, you take that 117, divide it by the 10. So remember, that's what we said. We have to take the MTTR for all the vulnerabilities that we were dealing with, divide it by the total number of those vulnerabilities, and that gives us 11.7 is the MTTR across all the vulnerabilities that we have inside the environment. Now, while that may be helpful for us, there's probably a couple other ways we really should be taking a look at this. So I'm just going to unhide a few columns here, just where I put a little more work into here. And what I'm now showing is based on the severity of the vulnerability in question as one example of how we could break this up. To start with, we can see the criticals. What we have are 3 total criticals. If you take a look in column B, you can see that it's vulnerability 1, vulnerability 4, and vulnerability 7 are the ones labeled as critical. And so what we do is take the dates for those. So we see the days for those. First one we can see took 2 days is what we have the MTTR. The second one we had 2 days, and the third one was 3 days, for a total of 7 when we add those together. Then the average MTTR that we have for criticals, we divide that by the total number of vulnerabilities that are critical, which is 3, which now gives us the 2.33 is what we have for the MTTR for critical. Similarly for the high, we add those together, which is 9 plus 6 plus 5 for those vulnerabilities 2, 5, and 9, which gives us 20, dividing by 3, which is the total number of vulnerabilities. That is 6.67 for the highs. Similarly for the mediums, we end up with 17.3, and for the lows we have in the environment, which is only 1, our MTTR for those is 38 days. So you can see breaking it up by different vulnerability classes will definitely make it easier for us to be able to see compliancy requirements, because normally we have something in the environment that's saying critical vulnerabilities of a certain time frame, high, medium, and low, all have different time frames associated with them. Now, this doesn't mean this is the CVSS rating, a critical, medium, high, or low. This would be how we've calculated out the risk severity in our environment. We'll take a look at other things on that at a different time. We're not here to try and figure out a risk score with weighted averages or stuff like that. That's not what Metrics Mondays is for. But you can see I can check from a compliancy perspective. Now also there might be other ways that will be helpful for us to take a look in the organization for MTTR. I'm just going to flip over here to the second tab I have on the spreadsheet, which is showing us some other information. It is the exact same chart. I've just added a new column in here related to business process. And all I wanted to highlight out here is that we have 4 different processes. I put in ordering, I've got billing, pardon me, I just zoomed out. I have HR and sales. So if we want to take a look across the different business processes, that also can reveal some interesting highlights. So for ordering, there are 3 items that are related to the ordering systems: vulnerability 1, 4, and 9. And those have an MTTR individually of 2, 2, and 5. Now adding those together, as you can see here, that ends up to a total of 9. 9 divided by 3 total vulnerabilities gives us an MTTR of 3 for anything related to the ordering system. Now similarly with the billing, we have 3 vulnerabilities, but you can see that is vulnerability 2, 3, and 10. Adding those individual MTTRs together, we end up with 43. So dividing 43 by 3, we have an MTTR average for the billing system of 14 days. Now, HR and sales, we've also shown the calculation out, which give us here a value of 12 for HR, and sales is at 20.5 for the 2 vulnerabilities that they have inside the environment. Now, you would be able to go through and divide this up really any way that you want to inside the organization. You could do it by business owner if you wanted to, not just the process. You could do this by, let's say, the remediation administrator on the system. Maybe we can highlight problems that they are having. There's lots of ways you can start to chop and slice the data up again, just like we've been seeing with the other metrics that are out there. But there you go, some of the ways we can do some of the calculations related to MTTR. So there you have it. Another one of the important metrics we should be taking a look at, the mean time to remediate. Thanks again for tuning in to this Metrics Monday. Hope to see you next time. I'm Jonathan Risto. Have a great day.